So based on Cyril Ramaphosa's address to the nation about fighting corruption, it looks like the man has completely given up on keeping the ANC together or even trying to reform the country in any meaningful way.
Yeah, so Ramaphosa did an address to the nation, which absolutely nobody watched. But in it, he basically said that he's looked at the Zondo reports. He's implementing some of the recommendations, and then he said that he has been very successful at holding the ANC and various other forms of government to account in order to bust corruption. I don't know about you, man, but does this guy live in the same country as us? Because I ain't seen these corruption busting things that he claims to have done.
Well, there have been many videos about, Cyril's fantasy South Africa, where the country he talks about is not the country that we actually live in. Like the smart cities and load shedding will be a thing of the past, and those high-speed bullet trains from Richards Bay to Swaziland or whatever. All that bullshit, right? And this is once again Cyril's greatest problem. He doesn't care anymore. He just does not care. So let's go through a few of the things he said last night, and then we've got a bigger point to make near the end of this video. Like, for example, Zono Commission had 358 recommendations to make, right? He maybe said that he will look at maybe 50% of those, and even then, the 50% that he's looking at is largely irrelevant to
Hmm.
solving corruption because his own cabinet ministers have been implicated in the report, and there's quite a few of them, I think 6 or 7 of them, and he will deal with it appropriately without giving any form of guidance as to how he'll actually do it. And most importantly, sorry to butt in, Byron, most importantly, he did not give effect to the most important parts of the Zondo Commission, which was end cadre deployment and let the president be directly elected. That's exactly what Zondo said. But for the president, he didn't deal with any of that.
No. So the other things that Ramaphosa says that he's going to implement and that are now going to become permanent stays is there's like an MPA prosecution authority, and there's some extra committees that are going to have some oversight functions and all sorts of things that frankly they mean nothing. I mean, the problem with oversight committees in South Africa is that they're always filled with cadres, and those cadres typically take the side of the ANC, which means the ANC continues to do whatever it wants without any kind of, how should we say, any kind of accountability. Now, that's why ending cadre deployment was such a big thing on the Zondo Commission, and obviously the DA has pursued it in a court action. Without ending cadre deployment, none of the corruption busting kind of things matter. So he kind of addressed everything that, as you very rightly said, mean nothing, and all the things that would have had some kind of accountability on the executive was left. You have to put this into context, though, because we also saw something else last week, which we're not going to cover in the video, but was kind of important to cover anyway, and that was the new electoral reform bill that's come out, which also was there to keep Parliament, the executive, government more electable, more accountable, and has been entirely watered down to the point where the bill, everyone's saying that the bill doesn't really kind of fit the ethos of what it was required to do, namely actually have any form of accountability for politicians. Now, the original report or the bill was thought would get rejected because the EFF had originally said that they would not be interested in supporting the bill. And then lo and behold, the EFF did their flip flopper, and when it went to Parliament, they did support the bill. And not only did they support the bill, but they basically had lots to say about civil society in South Africa, whereby they said they don't take orders from civil society. Why should they have to listen to what civil society says? Who cares? They're all just funded by monopolists, and we're going to support this bill anyway. So I think that kind of shows you really what's going on. Now, here's the elephant in the room that lots of people aren't really talking about, apart from a couple comments here and there, and that is the bill itself might not be constitutionally correct. So it may have to go back for constitutional challenge and then redraft, which coincidentally will then push the 2024 elections out, which could delay the elections. Which, wouldn't you know it, who are the two main losers of the elections in 2024, according to current polls?
The ANC and EFF.
Hmm.
The two
You only two
parties
to support.
who are against the Electoral Amendment Bill. It's wonderful, isn't it? It's
Who
like
knew?
no one can see this game being played. But despite all of that, there is a sense from me, and I made a video about this late last year, where to me, Cyril is probably going to go away somewhere, right? Maybe he'll win in December, maybe he won't. We hope he won't. But I think at the end of the day, Cyril's tired. As you keep saying, the guy's a billionaire. Why isn't he in Ibiza with thoughts and like vodka and yachts and whatever? No, he's stuck here with like morons like himself, dealing with
He's like
no
a load shedding, mate.
like dealing with load shedding and water crises and people being shot in the head and like 500 children being killed by criminals. Which billionaire wants that in his life? I think,
Baywatch babes,
yeah,
crime and
versus,
corruption.
yeah, exactly. You have to be a monumental moron to want what Cyril is doing now, considering his wealth. And I think sooner rather than later, we're going to see Cyril quietly resign. Maybe he'll say he's sick, or maybe he'll say, I'll try my best. But I don't know if he'll stick around after 2024 in any meaningful way.
I know that you've flippantly kind of like moved across from the election amendment bill, but I kind of can't not see the connection because Zondo's commissions were about holding the executive to greater account. It was about having basically devolution of power, which would break up the power structure in South Africa. As you know, we're currently pursuing a centralization program through Dlamini Zuma, and this would break it up. It was about holding the president to greater accountability by having an oversight body, the president being directly elected. It doesn't fit in with the ANC ideology, mate, and that's also what we've seen with the electoral amendment bill. It doesn't fit in with the ANC's policy. Now, I'll tell you one person that I can get behind. And for all of those of you who are like, oh, we just, super hard right wingers and, we don't like any form of communism. Well, let me tell you a degree of communism I can get behind. Xi, who is no longer a communist, mate. He is now emperor of China. And his only dictate is just do what I bloody tell you, and China will be great, and we'll all be fine. I don't care if you're a socialist, a communist, or whatever. The system has to run well. It has to run according to what I tell you. And if there's a problem, you go into the gulag. I can get behind that, mate. Now, if Cyril did that, I think we'd be fine. What do you think?
Well, here's the thing, right? Cyril is still very popular. He's got a 60% approval rating. I think it was 60%. Maybe now it's a bit lower than that. He could use the Electoral Amendment Bill, run as an independent in 2024, have an overwhelming majority to become president through direct elections, and still run this country without any of the ANC baggage. But because he's dumb and he's so within the cult like frame of the ANC, he refuses to remove the ANC from himself, right? He refuses to make the hard decisions to make himself more powerful and to make South Africa better. And that hard decision is keeping the ANC alive. He'd rather keep the ANC alive on life support rather than doing the correct thing, which is to become a mini she, have a plan for the country, a 20-year plan for the country, and give himself the mandate to do it. I'm not asking for dictatorship here, but there are resources available to him to really make him the great man that everyone thought that he would be, except for you and I, of course. But he refuses to do so because he's just dumb and he's given up.
Mm,
And I don't think he's going to stick around for much longer.
no, I would tend to agree with you on that front. I'm afraid, and it's interesting to watch what's going on in China. See, for me personally, I'd happily have Ramaphosa run a one-party state, if only on these conditions: free market gets to run independently of government. Take my guns away. My rights to self defense and my right to individuality, you can't touch it. You have to promote my rights and protect my culture and my framework regardless. You do that, you can run the bloody state as much as you want, man. As long as you protect us from invasion, foreign incursion, you protect the national interest. I couldn't care who's there, mate. Like, don't bother me. Does it bother you?
No, not at all. And I think Ramaphosa, without the ANC baggage, could be someone like that. He could be a consolidator. He could be someone who is able to consolidate his power to make sure that, South Africa doesn't degenerate anything further than what it currently is. He's like, he's not the Donald Trump great like reformer, but he's like a consolidator. And I think he could do that without the ANC, but he's trying to keep the ANC alive. He's tired of all this bullshit, and believe me, I think he's going to be gone sooner rather than we think. And that is
Mm.
actually the point of this video.
Yeah, I mean, look, the problem is, and we discussed this before we filmed, I personally don't think Ramaphosa has any options left. Zondo directly implicated the ANC. If the ANC is held to account, Ramaphosa is in a difficult situation because the whole point of having the ANC at the moment under Ramaphosa's leadership is that ANC think that Ramaphoria will basically protect them from their corruption scandals. And as we can now see, it can't, because it wasn't just enough to have the corruption of the past, it's now the corruption of the present. Arguably, the corruption of the present is worse than the past, and certainly from my perspective. So it's not kind of working anymore. And all the national inquiries that are being set up, regardless of who they're from, are all making the ANC accused number one. Everybody can see it. And there's no amount of lies that can cover that up anymore. Even the Zuma personality isn't cutting it anymore. Even when he goes out into public going, I'm back, like, who wants me? Everyone's like, nah, you're right.
So here's the question, Byron. I can accept the ANC's enemy number one, so why does the president want to stick with it at all costs? Whereas he
I can
himself
only
has so much
imagine
social
loyalties.
capital and political capital to go it alone.
Loyalties, mate. I mean, loyalties. That's all I can say. Maybe somebody's got some dirt on him that he doesn't want coming out. Maybe he thinks that he owes a jet to Mandela for, I don't know, getting him the B contracts in the first place. Maybe it's, I don't know, man. I can't speculate. What I can say is that all three former presidents, regardless of what you think about them, have all been very critical of his leadership. You know, some of those leaders, including one of them being Jacob Zuma, one Thabo Mbeki, the guy who came after it, who was only there for a couple of months. Like, all of them have been vocal about his failures.
Mm.
All of them. So I don't know, man. At what point in time, if it was you, if you were running a business and you saw the business failing, and even the previous CEOs were like, oh, you're just rubbish at your job. At what point in time would you go like, maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe I should just go have my Ibiza babes and my yachts and some vodkas.
Yeah, whatever happens, as long as the ANC loses, I'm happy. So it will lose with him in there, it'll lose with him out of there. So let's just do it the correct way. Let him leave in the electoral conference in December. Let, I don't know, Mkhize run the bloody thing, and there we go. We might have a different country come 2024. Big but, in tomorrow's video, we're going to explain why this country may not even exist after 2024. So why don't you tune in for that?